Hello everyone, today, I'd like to introduce you to a movie. It's about a diamond bigger than a bird's egg, which was discovered by a black man. In order to avoid the boss inspection, he hid the diamond between his toes. It is called Blood Diamond. The story began in Africa. The son who came home from school had a discussion with his father, Solomon Vandy, about the reasons why we had to go to school to change our fates. The rebel troops suddenly drove into the village. Solomon ran away with his son. After settling down his son, he went back to find his wife and daughter. The rebel troops shot at sight, regardless of the people's life. Solomon made a small door from behind. He rescued his wife and daughter. However, he was caught by the troops. All people in the village, even the children, were also cruelly caught. When it was Solomon's turn, the troops thought he was young and strong. He and other people were the source of money for the troops to buy arms. Someone found a small diamond. He was killed immediately because he hid it between his teeth. Here, morality and dignity had been crushed into slag and blown into the wind. A few days later, Solomon accidentally found a priceless pink diamond. He tried to take possession of it. The pump at the base exploded suddenly. He took the opportunity to hide the diamond in his toes. He pretended to go to the toilet and sneaked into the woods. The commander checked his whole body to make sure that he was not hiding anything before letting him go. He took off the diamond and wrapped it in a piece of cloth. He was going to bury it in the ground, but he was found by the commander. Then, the area was suddenly raided by government troops. A bomb knocked the commander to the ground. In the fierce battle between the two sides, Solomon grabbed the knife and crawled forward. He buried the diamond in the soil pit. Then Solomon was captured by the army and sent to prison. On the other side, a helicopter landed in bloody Africa. Archer, who got off the helicopter, made a living by reselling war zone diamonds. The rebel leader gave Archer a box of diamonds. He hoped he could get his guns and ammunition back. Archer was walking, the troops passed by. He had smuggled diamonds in sheep. They put him in prison. In prison, a rebel commander with an eyeshot was sure that Solomon took a big diamond. Solomon did not admit it, and they quarreled. For Solomon, in order to leave Africa and live a rich life, it depended on that pink diamond. A few days later, Archer was redeemed from prison. He had Solomon bailed out immediately. While drinking in the bar, Archer met a journalist. Maddie had always wanted to investigate the smuggling of war zone diamonds. It was a secret that couldn't be said. Two people broke up in a bad mood. Archer came back home and found that the house had been ransacked. This was done by the mercenary colonel. The colonel also wanted to get the huge diamond. On the other side, after Solomon went out of prison, he always looked for his wife and children. However, their names were not on the list. Where should he go to look for his son? At that moment, his son had already been captured by the rebels. Under the high-pressure training of the rebels and brainwashing, his son had already become a killing machine. Archer found Solomon and wanted to work with him to get that pink diamond back, but Solomon didn't want to talk to him. Archer assured Solomon that if he was willing to hand over the diamond, Archer could help him find his family. When they were discussing, the rebels and mercenaries fought fiercely. They had to get away from the bullets, like escaping from hell. They took refuge in a room. There were a lot of children. If these children were captured by the rebels, didn't know what kind of torture they would go through. In the evening, when people outside were celebrating in the rebel army, they sneaked through the back door, crossed the war zone and started a big escape. Later, they joined the ranks of refugees. In the refugee camp, Archer met Maddie again. He was honest about his diamond smuggling. That was what Maddie wanted to know. If Maddie used her identity to sneak into the database, to help Solomon find his family, he would provide more news about diamonds. 3 people arrived in Guinea by helicopter. Millions of refugees lived there. The officer promised to help them find Solomon's family. Maddie used her camera to record the tragic picture of refugees. Solomon saw his wife and daughter. They all were here. But only the oldest son was not seen. Their son had been captured by the rebels. Solomon was so sad that he grabbed the fence and shook it. The military could only pull him apart, because of the fear that there would be rebels in the refugees. So the military wouldn't release the refugees until the war was over. When he saw his wife and daughter, Solomon told Archer the diamond was buried under the mountain. But it had long been occupied by the rebels. Archer persuaded Maddie to take them as journalists, but Maddie just wanted to expose the smuggling of diamonds. Archer spoke again. He smuggled blood diamonds to neighboring countries. Businessmen bribed officials and got legal mining certificate to prove that the diamonds were not smuggled from the war zone. The diamonds were then sent to India for sorting, mixed with ordinary diamonds to become legal diamonds. And diamond companies in the United States would buy a lot of diamonds, put them in underground warehouses and kept them out of the market. In order to coax up the price, let ordinary consumers, especially for newly married couples who paid a high price for diamonds. The diamond companies did not help the rebels directly, but as long as there was a war, these diamond companies still made money. All the smuggling evidence was in Archer's little book. Maddie finally agreed to take Archer and Solomon to the war zone to interview. They just walked for a while. They saw the tragic picture of an ambulance being blown to the ground by the rebels. The rebels attacked them. Solomon saved a child. Then he got into the mercenaries' car and ran away. After driving for a while, they were ambushed again. The driver was shot and killed, so Archer became a driver. Rushing into the jungle, the car fell to the ground. They got out of the car and ran for their lives. Finally, in the jungle, they met the gorillas protecting the villagers. Maddie showed her identity as a journalist. This had won the trust of the gorillas. The gorillas took them to a school in forest. Here, Archer told Maddie about his miserable life. When he was 9, his mother was tortured to death by the rebels. His father was beheaded and hanged in the warehouse. He was like an orphan abandoned by God. He had never been treated with tenderness in this world. The next day, 3 of them drove to the colonel's camp. The mercenaries were fighting with the rebels. They always wanted to take all the diamonds away. Archer handed over the blood diamond evidence, asked Maddie to do him one last favor, to distract the guards. He went to the warehouse and loaded 2 packs of food and ammunition and communication tools. Maddie was going to fly out of here. Archer and Solomon were carrying packages and going to the place where the diamond was buried. A Boy Scout passed by, and they immediately hid. Solomon thought one of them was his son. He shouted loudly. 2 people could only run for their lives. They covered their bodies with hay, and that was how they escaped. Later, Solomon knew the rebel base from an old man. He wanted to go to the base to find his son. Archer didn't feel it was a good idea. They fought against each other. Solomon shouted he was a father, so he should protect his son. If he couldn't find his son, he would die without closing his eyes. Archer was touched and promised to wait till dark to find Solomon's son. 2 people crept up to the rebel base, but they had no sign of the son. Over the next few days, they continued their journey. The scenery on the road was so beautiful, but they didn't want to enjoy it. They just wanted to find what they really need. After a few days of walking, they finally arrived at the diamond mining base. Archer called the colonel and asked for support the next morning. In the evening, they crept into the rebel base. Solomon finally saw his son here. He wanted to take his son straight away, but at that time his son had been brainwashed. He didn't even recognize his father, and threw Solomon to the ground. The next day, the commander forced Solomon to give up the big diamond or kill his son. At that moment, the captain came here in a fighter. No matter 3, 7, 21, crazily shooting Archer was forced to join the fight to recuse Solomon and his son. Solomon was angry at last. After roaring wildly, he killed the one-eyed commander with a shovel. The mercenaries were hiding in the jungle, a frenzied shooting down all the rebels. After all were quiet, the colonel forced Solomon and Archer into the jungle. When they all were looking for the diamond, Archer suddenly launched a counterattack. A wave of operation as fierce as a tiger put down the people around him, and the captain fell down and died. Archer was also shot in the fight. Solomon finally dug up the diamond, the size of a bird's egg. Then, the son turned the gun at his father. Solomon told his son about his mother, sister and brother. They were all waiting for him to come home and eat baked sweet potatoes. The cattle at home missed him very much. He was a kind child, but he was used and lost his way. Solomon finally tore, and let his son's last soul find himself. The mercenaries came after them, and they ran towards the forest. Archer was badly hurt, and Solomon carried him up, only by climbing to the top of the mountain. The helicopter could find them. Archer knew he couldn't hold on. He gave Solomon the pistol and the diamond, and let Solomon take his son to the helicopter. They were a family, it should not be destroyed by this war. Archer was leaning on a rock, and the mercenaries were at the foot of the mountain. At the end of his life, he called Maddie. If there were a next life, he had to choose to be with her. But now, he needed Maddie to help Solomon sell the diamond, and found the family. For Archer, this was also the final salvation of his life. Archer's blood was on the ground. Why is the land of Africa red? It is red with the blood of war. Many wars are not for freedom. It's about seizing and possession, ivory, oil, gold, and diamond. These are all excuses for war. At the end of the movie, Solomon carried the big diamond to the Diamond Trading Company in New York. Maddie had been following to take photos. Solomon wanted £2 million. He had to find his family before he handed over the diamond. On the busy street, Solomon saw the window. There was a diamond necklace. It may have been his companion's blood. If knowing the truth behind it, would anyone buy it? Finally, Solomon's family returned to him. The whole family hugged each other happily. After the diamond company got that diamond, it was sealed in an underground warehouse. Maddie's report on the blood diamonds had caused a sensation in society. The diamond boss who manipulated all this became the focus of public opinion. But even so, they couldn't stop the blood diamond business. In Africa, there are still 200,000 children soldiers. No one can change human greed. As the saying goes, no deal, no killing, but where there is desire, there is trade. This movie is called Blood Diamond.